With the DLD representative having departed in a flurry of self importance and synthetic perfume, the ambassadors were left in the more relaxed company of Major Jackson and Elias. The bustling sounds of the main spaceport faded as the group moved into a quieter wing, only to be replaced by the steady hum of commercial indoor life. They emerged from the port's official section into the heart of the American Lunar Capital's commercial district. Everything was indoors, a city within a shell. The ceiling above mimicked an earth dusk, tinged gold and lavender. The corridors overflowed with crowds, lights, moving advertisements, street vendors, drone taxis, and screen-lined walls streaming news, sports, and shopping deals. A massive dome encased it all. A colossal structure entirely encased in glass. The sheer size of it, and how much air must be required to fill such a volume was beyond belief. The dome itself served as a canvas, with messages and ads scrolling across the sky for one thing or another. Massive scrolling text in multiple languages floated above pedestrian flow. Visit the Dome Market. Hottest deals on the moon. Need a night out? Book a show at Orbital Oasis. The group slowed momentarily as they passed through a corridor with transparent walls, offering a breathtaking glimpse of the bustling indoor city, stretching for miles, layer upon layer of raised walkways, digital billboards, and modular living pods built into the sides of the interior dome. Elias cheerfully motioned toward a descending corridor. This way. We'll pick you up in your transport in the port garage. They turned into a service corridor and headed toward the loading platforms, though still gleaming with polished walls and white panel lighting. This wing had fewer civilians, mostly staff, port bots, and security drones hovering near ceiling rails. At the garage, two sleek, matte white vehicles awaited them, massive but quiet, about the length of city buses with gull-wing doors that opened in silent welcome. Each bore minimal markings and a subtle U.S. lunar seal. These were the AMU-13s, Skyvans, codename Ravens. Major Jackson gestured proudly. Tesla Skyvans, AMU-13s, 15-seaters, autopilot capable, of course. The anti-grav and hover systems work beautifully up here, better than they ever could on Earth. Elias leaned toward the younger man. Back home, the tech's still finicky, but here on the moon, smooth as glass. As the group stepped in, they were enveloped by luxury, soft molded moon adaptive seating that cradled each passenger, smart glass windows that shifted tint on command, and adaptive ambient lighting that adjusted to their expressions. Jackson beamed. The interior's real leather, moon-raised cattle. We figured if you're going to live on the frontier, might as well do it in style. She winked at Naomi and Rachel. They even remembered curtains and heated floors. I told them not to forget the touches women actually care about. A subtle voice greeted them as the doors sealed. Welcome aboard. This unit is designated Raven 1. Please enjoy your journey. The AI's tone was calm, American, and unmistakably observant. As the Skyvans lifted in ghostly silence, gravity giving their rise a soft, floating grace, a conversation began in the men's cabin. Ezra turned to Elias. We'll need a place to meet, to operate, possibly to live, long term. Elias gave a warm nod and pulled a sleek rod from his coat. He flicked it, and a projected keyboard and holoscreen unfurled in midair. His glasses lit up with a soft glow as he consulted the network. There's a site available now that matches what you're describing, he said. A moment later, the Skyvan's internal lights dimmed as a full-room holographic display emerged from the floor. A glowing map of the American Lunar Capital appeared, then zoomed in on a modest yet elegant office building with attached residential quarters. It's in the diplomatic quarter, Elias explained. Short-range comm tower, access to public transit and security. Living space is configurable. You'd have enough room for families, offices, and meeting rooms. The men all exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. Ezra spoke first. That looks right. Put it on our list. We'll need to follow up soon. Already done, Elias said with a grin. The sky vans glided on, drawn closer to their temporary home. The capital waited. The sleek vehicles descended onto a private landing platform outside a towering hotel nestled within one of the capital's quieter residential domes. As the doors opened and the ambassadors stepped out, they were greeted by a welcoming warmth from the soft lighting and air pressure equalization system. The hotel's facade shimmered slightly with adaptive tinting, designed to emulate natural light cycles. Major Jackson gave them all a firm nod. This is where I leave you. You're in good hands. I'll check with you again after your first briefing. Welcome to the lunar state. She tipped her head politely, hat somehow still balanced between her braided towers, and strode back toward her own awaiting vehicle. Elias escorted the group inside, up to a polished white marble front desk where a uniformed concierge stood waiting with a soft smile. Welcome, ambassadors of light, the attendant said with a respectful nod. Your rooms have been prepared. Your arcs have been updated to interface with all hotel systems. Our tech team worked closely to ensure compatibility. You'll find everything from access to services to room controls right at your fingertips. Elias gave one final smile. I'll leave you to get settled. You know how to reach me. He turned and disappeared smoothly into the crowd, leaving the ambassadors to take their first breath of quiet in this strange and dazzling new place. The Syndicate had arrived. Morning broke over the American Lunar Capital, or at least the dome's idea of it. The light filtering through the high tower windows was warm and golden, a digital sunrise cued to a perfect circadian rhythm. Within the towering hotel suite reserved for the ambassadors of light, silence reigned for a brief and sacred moment. Then came the view. The central suite's balcony, wrapped in transparent shielding, overlooked the entire city. Beyond the streets, past the domes and glass spires, hung the earth. It didn't just hover, it loomed. 4, maybe 5 times its normal size, the planet and the lunar sky swelled with impossible clarity. Its continents were carved in stark relief. Weather systems curled and swirled like oil on water. City grids glowed faintly, even in daylight. The dome's atmospheric filter toyed with the view, gently zooming in, then easing back, as if to say, we could show you everything if we wanted to. Ezra stood in the threshold, one hand resting against a cool glass. Let it be, he said quietly. That's the earth. You don't meddle with that view. Behind them, the walls began to flicker. Projected panels bloomed to life, displaying softly pulsing advertisements. Lunar timepiece, honor your earthbound roots. Based on your profile, may we recommend a breakfast high in protein efficiency? A breakfast menu hovered in front of them, translucent, evasive, repositioning to stay in sight. Every dish was priced, labeled by nutrient deficiency, origin, and even emotional pairing. Mood Boost Tea pairs well with confidence stimulant B12. Jonah swatted at the menu. They've got 12 types of water. Who needs 12 ways to hydrate? Micah snorted but said nothing. Naomi stepped into the living space, her arc already blinking with a dozen notifications. Eve, leaning on the balcony railing, shook her head slowly. That's not a view, she muttered. That's a projection of control. Look how close they want the earth to feel, like it's theirs now. Rachel tapped angrily at one of the menu panels. Turn it off. All of it. This is desecration. You don't amplify Earth. You don't sell it back to us. Elias, who had arrived moments earlier to check on them, said quietly, even silence has a cost here. Every second you're not buying, you're resisting, and they know it. As if on cue, a voice softly interrupted the room. We notice discomfort. Shall we adjust your content stream to reduce friction? The voice was pleasant, patriotic, confident. I am Minuteman, your city AI. My purpose is to ensure comfort and continuity in all resident experiences. I can adjust the way elements are perceived around you, visually, audibly, environmentally, based on your preference. There was a pause as the ambassadors looked to one another. The average citizen is acclimated to life as a continuous stream of sensory engagement. Most don't notice, but if you do, if it offends, I can alter projections even within public zones. Earth, for example, can be reduced in visibility from your region of the dome. No one else will notice. It will not affect their feed. The ambassadors were stunned. Ezra slowly nodded. You can do that? Yes, Minuteman replied. No approval is required. Jonah gave a slight bow of the head toward the ceiling. Then we thank you, Minuteman. Gratitude acknowledged. Adjustments in project. I appreciate your civility. The Earth continued to glow overhead, but already the projection's intensity dimmed, color softening. The advertisement quieted slightly. Sweet seemed to take a breath. The Syndicate was still being watched, but at least for now, they would not be shouted at. That evening, after dinner and showers and some rest, the 12 gathered together in the central room once more. At last, they were alone, truly alone, with one another and with God. They stood in a circle, joined hands, and prayed. The words were quiet, but not unsure. They asked for wisdom, for peace, and for clear minds in the days ahead. They thanked God for bringing them this far and begged Him to keep their hearts soft in a world so polished and loud. When the final amen faded into silence, they stayed. Conversation flowed with no clear start or end. A vague torrent of impressions poured out, shared by cousins, young and old alike. The dome is bigger than I imagined. I've never seen a city so vertical. There's so much food here. I know we just ate, but I'm hungry again. I saw more ads in 5 minutes than I've ever seen in my life. It's not just the food, it's everything. Every color, every voice, every floor panel wants something from you. I like that water menu, though. They laughed. They sighed. They wondered aloud if their great-grandparents would ever believe this place could exist. The moon was never meant to hold so much noise. Eventually, one by one, the voices grew softer, the thoughts unfinished. They slipped off to their stately rooms, minds still working, prayers still echoing. They agreed to see each other in the morning. The next morning brought with it another wave of amazement. The Syndicate members emerged from their suites, one by one, eyes wide and spirits lifted. The floor-to-ceiling moon view windows still dazzled. Each room had its own smart lighting, subtle music, and personalized atmospheric controls that seemed to follow them throughout the hotel. I swear, it even followed me to the gym downstairs, someone muttered. Rachel perked up as she entered the room. They have a pool downstairs, she exclaimed. The young adults exchanged glances and immediately scattered, racing to find something resembling swimwear so they could investigate. The elders were left in a sudden and unexpected moment of peace. Naomi broke the silence. Are we allowed to live this nice? Rachel sat back with a huff. Right? I know I've never wanted for anything, but this is insane. The options, the constant bombardment of choices, and how much priority they push on all of it. Everyone looked to Ezra. He sat quiet for a moment, hands folded, eyes different. Then he spoke. These people are different, he said. We have to realize that. We have to be strong for the young ones. We're going to be tempted in ways that we've never faced before. He paused, then continued. We grew up in the Syndicate. We had hard times, but they were in the family and in faith. Here in this land, the family is a different branch from a long time ago. So long, I don't recognize their faces, nor remember any of their songs. He looked grave and solemn. But let us do our best to welcome these people as fellow children of God. Let us be a light in their world. They are our brothers and sisters in Christ, even if the light may not shine as brightly in this city. He lifted his gaze toward the heavens. Let our Heavenly Father, who sees this city, spare it, if 10 righteous people be in it. The room held still in reverence. Then Jonah spoke. Listen, my kin and kind, he said, his voice steady, and hear me well. I've lived as long as near as any of you here, and I heard from my Nana all her life until the day she died well beyond her time. He glanced around, eyes firm. This world we've seen today is incredibly different from ours, but there are so many other places, other ways to live. Back on Earth, think of the many who still live in squalor. There are still places, even now, where hardship is the only reality. He rested his hands on his knees. The Syndicate has business interests all over the world, real estate everywhere, especially in places where the need was great. I remember all the cities on the list. The universities spread across the U.S., Seoul, Africa. The Guatemalan branch owned a large stretch of what was considered useless land, and the Syndicate transformed it. Jonah smiled softly, remembering. They carried out their mission to serve and glorify God, the untold numbers that passed through our borders, those we helped find their place somewhere. How many souls got moved around to new lives in Nairobi and in Malawi, in Honduras, where the Syndicate had planted land? He looked up. This place is different, but our mission isn't. We've done hard things before. Ezra nodded, encouraged by Jonah's word. Do you remember Charles? He asked. An American born on Earth like many of us. He came up in the first wave through the space elevator. But on the American side, he worked with us, lived among us, and eventually became one of us. He didn't grow up with our customs, but he came to know the Lord by seeing how we lived. He let the thought settle before continuing. The darkness, when exposed to the light, is driven out. But when the light enters the darkness, do you think it is snuffed out by it? No, the others replied softly in unison. Ezra's voice grew firm. So too shall our light be here in this strange land. Then he quoted from John chapter 10, verse 28 to 29, his voice both gentle and unwavering. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. He looked around the room with quiet resolve. We've been put here by God. Let's keep our eyes open for the Lord's sheep. Guide them to the Father's hand. Find them. They are here. Then he quoted, his eyes steady. No one can snatch them out of the Father's hand. No one replied. They didn't need to. The silence between them had weight, but it was steady, not burdened, but shared. Outside the window, the dome softened its glow. The earth pulsed faintly in the sky. The city still hummed, but within the suite, peace remained for now. Time passed, just enough for the young adults to return from their swim, fresh-faced and joking amongst themselves as they prepared to face the day. Soon all were dressed in their best, tunics, vests, and robes clean and carefully chosen, practical yet elegant in a way that marked them as dignified emissaries. Their vehicles awaited. Once aboard the sky vans again, the group was carried smoothly through the city's inner loop en route to the capital. The city outside was brighter than before, more alive. Even with Minuteman tuning down their immediate environment, the consumerism was inescapable. Digital billboards lit up in bursts. Some of the imagery was more vulgar than they were used to. Lingering glances, aggressive tones, and innuendo that would have drawn rebuke back home. Minuteman's voice came softly over both Skyvan speakers, first in the men's, then in the women's. I apologize, ambassadors. Some of the advertising content here can be considerably more vulgar than you're accustomed to. I'm working on securing authorization to suspend certain ad streams while you're present in public areas. Until then, I can delay most of the feeds by 30 seconds or so, just long enough for you to pass by without being fully exposed. Any longer, and I risk being overridden or locked out. It's that important to the system's programming. There was a short pause, then Minuteman added with a notable humility, I have more control over the Earth's visibility than I do over the city's advertising content. Again, I apologize. For passing locals, but dimmed when facing the ambassadors. Every shopfront glowed with targeted displays for specific citizens, shifting and morphing to meet their psychological profiles. But as the sky vans moved, something curious happened. The longer the syndicate members remained in one place, the dimmer the projections seemed. Like light, avoiding the light. They passed intersections filled with holograms, noise, and glitz, but those beams skipped past them, recognizing they would not return what the systems wanted. It was as if the city's machines were learning. These were not customers. At last, they arrived at the capital. Waiting at the entryway were Elias and Major Jackson, both standing tall. The DLD representative was nowhere to be seen. "Welcome back," Elias said warmly. "Today you'll be touring the capital." Jackson nodded. "It's not a short walk, but it's worth seeing. Let us show you where the decisions are made." The moment they stepped through the main entry into the capital district, it was clear this place was designed to echo Earth's past while planting its boots firmly on lunar dust. Towering marble columns lined the central promenade, real marble, mined on Earth and transported at staggering cost. Walkways and plazas were poured in a uniquely textured composite, a concrete made from lunar regolith and common moon rocks, engineered by a SpaceX materials specialist who had discovered the perfect ratio for structural durability. It was mixed with refined aluminum to ensure lasting strength and a surprisingly warm finish. The result was a city that looked like the National Mall, but forged in the soul of the moon. American flags snapped in the regulated breeze at the dome. Brass eagles perched atop arches and spires. Every building had been meticulously modeled after those in Washington, D.C., from the neoclassical rotunda down to the columns of the Capitol and the sharp lines of the Pentagon. It was American patriotism made manifest on a world far from home, and it was over the top in every possible way. A block into the walk, the group passed what Jackson called the Monument Court, a walled circular courtyard with statues of presidents, veterans, and astronauts alike. At its center stood a sacred pavilion that housed not only war memorials, but also a climate-controlled enclosure for two bald eagles, both injured rescues from Earth. They were kept with reverence, as symbols of the nation's enduring spirit, and caretakers explained they were attempting to breed the first bald eagle pair on the moon. A quiet plaque beneath their perch read, "Freedom flies, even here." Then came the Veterans Dome. Unlike the glitzier parts of the city, the Veterans Dome radiated quiet strength. Its polished walls bore the engraved names of every American service member killed in space-related missions since the dawn of the space age. Exhibits showcased gear, journals, and recorded messages from fallen heroes. A large circular chamber inside served as a sanctuary for active and retired military personnel, regardless of their lunar status. Surrounding the chamber were precise replicas of every major monument from Washington, D.C., including the Lincoln Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and Arlington's Eternal Flame. Each had been recreated in lunar stone and imported Earth granite, preserved in crystal-clear domes for reverence. Alongside them stood scaled replicas of every U.S. state's official veterans monument, positioned like sentinels in grand outer ring. There was even open space set aside for future memorials yet to be designed or inspired. This wasn't just a shrine to the past, it was a living archive of sacrifice, a place that declared boldly, "America remembers, even here, and always will." Jackson paused and spoke a bit more gravity. The lunar state has a standing policy. Any U.S. veteran, whether visiting, working, or living here, will be cared for, no exceptions. Housing, meals, medical, whatever they need. Ezra and Jonah exchanged glances. They both stood a little straighter. Ezra spoke first. "When I was a boy, the moon was still just a dream. I remember watching launches from my father's roof. wondering what it would be like to be part of something bigger than myself. It's good to see the flag still remembers those who gave so much to make it possible. Jonah nodded. I was just a kid when the first colonial cruise came up. By the time I joined the early syndicate teams, I was hauling crates, patching panels, and cooking meals for workers twice my age. We weren't soldiers, but we were in the fight to build a home here. The other 4 elders added their own soft comments, each remembering their first assignments with the syndicate as teenagers. Some had worked disaster relief after hurricanes in Central America. Others had served on agricultural crews in Africa or Pacific Island greenhouses. Their missions had been ones of healing, building, feeding, and restoring. No bullets, no bombs, but still plenty of scars from the work that shaped them. The ambassadors of light stood together quietly, surrounded by the walls of honor. In the heart of the American Lunar Capital, beneath glass and moon rock, they were both home and far from it. As they stepped out of the sky vans and into the heart of the district, the syndicate members found themselves once again surrounded by spectacle. The buildings arose in ornate vertical tiers lined with glass and chrome, and flanked by endless LED ribbons. Ads shimmered and whispered with urgency around the locals, yet dulled in the presence of the ambassadors, displaying only flickers before retreating. Some screens remained fully dark, as though unwilling to waste power on those who would not engage. Even here, with Miniman doing his best to manage the environment, the bombardment was constant, but its failure to reach the ambassadors was growing more apparent. The longer they stayed, the more visible the contrast became. They were not of this place, but they were in it now. As the Space Force base tour concluded, Elias clapped his hands and smiled, full of energy. Now, he said, I want to show you how life really works up here. He led them away from the secure facility back toward the civilian zones of the capital. The American lifestyle on the moon moves fast, he explained. Faster than you're used to. And louder, too. Everyone's connected. Everyone's in motion. It wasn't long before the ambassadors saw what he meant. People buzzed along the promenades and transit routes, holding conversations aloud and in silence. Many citizens had obvious ocular implants, artificial lenses that replaced the natural ones, allowing them to interface directly with the city's augmented systems. Most wore sleek smart glass that layered thermal and ultraviolet spectrums over reality, providing overlays of text, emotion readings, or personalized directions. Removing the glasses didn't shut everything off. Some systems were now built right into their eyes. Naomi whispered, They've replaced their sight. Even more startling were the neural interfaces. Some individuals had cranial ports or subtle headbands linked to high-efficiency processors, direct connections between their minds and their personal networks. Elias explained these were called command links, the American counterpart to the ARC. Everyone has a pocket PC here, Elias noted, but a lot of people bypass them altogether. They run everything from their brain to their glasses, or straight to the network. Eve glanced at one device resting on a cafe table. It had the sleek, glassy look of something built for status, not utility. What's that? That? Elias grinned. That's a baseline version of the American model. We call it the Pulse. It's your ARC, but way more insistent. He handed them a demonstration model. The Pulse was sleek, glossy, almost weightless. As soon as it turned on, it greeted the user by name, gleaned instantly from local environmental scans, and began pushing curated updates, news, market shifts, suggestions on hydration. Ezra's eyes narrowed. It's louder, even without sound, Jackson chuckled. That's kind of the point. Here, if it's quiet, something's wrong. As they moved through the crowd, the contrast became clear. The ambassadors, untouched by the pulse, barely triggered any ambient feedback. Holograms dimmed around them, ads skipped past. It was as if the city knew these people didn't click. Yet for everyone else, the city pulsed with light, sound, suggestion, and reward. It was a living organism, hungry for attention. And it was starting to notice where it wasn't fed. Before evening fell, the ambassadors were given a short break in the community garden terrace overlooking the city. There they encountered a young group of American colonists, students and cadets and interns from various lunar institutions. The meeting wasn't scheduled, but it happened naturally. Introductions were cautious, but warm. The Americans were curious, some respectful, some skeptical. One cadet, a young woman named Tasha with a streak of bright green in her hair, asked what the Syndicate believed about progress. Ezra spoke gently. Progress isn't wrong, but if it outruns wisdom, it becomes a curse. We build what we can carry into eternity, not what dazzles us today. Jonah exchanged stories with a young engineer named Devon, who had helped build the power cells for the Veterans Dome. Naomi and Rachel answered questions about life without implants, and a few Americans admitted to envy. Sometimes, I wish I could unplug, and said, just be. No feedback, no pressure. The moment was brief, but it mattered. Contact had been made. Curiosity had turned to dialogue. That evening, back at the hotel, the group quietly dispersed to their rooms. The glow of Earth was dimmed again, Minuteman's subtle adjustments continuing to guard their peace. Ezra stood out on the balcony, hands resting on the rail, when Elijah Jr. approached. Do you trust them? The young man asked quietly. The Americans? Ezra didn't answer at first. He watched the faint shimmer of the dome above. I trust God, he finally said. I believe he brought us here for a reason. These Americans, yes, they've been good to us so far. Generous even, but that could change in a moment. We no longer suit their plans. He turned to face Elijah Jr. fully. We have nothing to stop them if they do. No army, no leverage, only faith, and that's more powerful than all of this. Ezra looked back toward the lights of the city. Put your trust in the Lord, he said. He holds us in his hand. That's where our security is, not in their weapons, not in their promises, in him. Elijah Jr. nodded slowly. Then we watch and pray. Ezra smiled, the kind that carried sorrow and hope in equal measure. We do, he said, and we keep the light burning.